Well, this is Mike Einspar, and this is my Legal Aspects of Teacher Evaluation video presentation. The first article, Teacher Evaluation, Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, hit a couple of key points. The first one being it really prohibits the Secretary of Education of prescribing any aspects of the state's educational system, specifically talking about teacher evaluations or defining what teacher effectiveness is. It does allow for part of your evaluation to be based on academic achievement or student growth, but it also puts in there that the districts and the states are responsible for developing their own midterm, long-term, and intermediate goals. A couple of the key implications that this act does is if you had the rights for collective bargaining prior to the ESSA, you get to keep those rights, but it does not create any kind of collective bargaining within your district if you do not have them prior to. They must use the term meaningful consult. So when they're developing a teacher evaluation system, they must use several measurements or tools, and they must consult with meaningful people that know what they're talking about and have something to do with the education piece of it. It also puts in there specifically that any kind of improvement should align with the due process of the district. The second article dealt with court cases throughout the United States. The two that really hit home to me were the ones in Florida. Prior to teaching in Kansas this last year, I taught for 7 years in Florida and was directly affected by both of these court cases. The first one, Cook versus Bennett, dealt with teachers who were not directly in charge of an end-of-course exam, those being Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, the Englishes, Biology, U.S. History. At the time, 51% of your evaluation was based on your students' achievement scores in those state standard tests. So if you were not in charge of one of those classes, your 51% came from the average of the entire school. So at the school I was at, there was 1,300 students, and I dealt with 200 of them on a daily basis, which means I had nothing to do with 900 students, but yet how they performed on that test directly affected 51% of my evaluation. Whether I agree with it or disagree with it, the state won, and that's how it is and how it stands. The second one, Robinson versus Stewart, dealt with merit-based pay. And when they first implemented that, if a teacher was deemed highly effective, they received a pay bonus. Now, it was up to the districts to fund that, figure out how they were going to fund that, and then pay those teachers that bonus. What happened was, through the evaluation system, there was a lot of teachers who received a highly effective evaluation. So the next year, in order to not pay all those teachers quite so much money, there's a lot of those teachers who were highly effective year one who were not effective year two and did not receive that bonus. There's quite a bit of grumblings about that, and it really came down to they felt whether the administrator or the evaluation system was evaluating effectively. Regardless, the state still won, and if you're a highly effective teacher, you do receive a bonus. Okay, the third article, an issue overview. Why has teacher performance become such an issue? Well, as you read through the article, there's a couple of issues that become very apparent. Number one is the financial incentive. The U.S. government has offered the Race for the Top grant, which can fund and put a lot of money into school systems in the way of job coaches, teaching coaches, instructional coaches, to help have a better instruction for kids. The other one is the Gateses. Bill Gates has put forth a lot of money, and it's really for teacher accountability. And in their mind, the more money they put into a school system, the more teacher accountability that they will have. They can control the teachers. They can control what they're teaching and how they're teaching. In their mind, the process will give them greater student success. Is that happening to the degree that they want? I don't know. The final answer for that, it doesn't seem like the best. It's been the best bang for their buck. How have teacher unions responded? Through this, we have come up with a better evaluation system, whether it be the Marzano, whether it be the Danielson model or the modified Danielson model. We do have better evaluation tools. We've trained evaluators, administrators on the key things to look for in classrooms, how to evaluate them, how to give proper feedback, and how to train our teachers into becoming better instructors, and see more growth from our teachers, both the mid-level and the higher level teachers. The one thing that is pretty consistent across the evaluation system is everybody is very leery of the value-added model, or the VAM. Coming from a modified Danielson system where the VAM is huge, they always talked about your VAM scores and your VAM scores. Well, how do you get better VAM scores? And that's part of the problem, is nobody really knows. Nobody can tell you exactly what the formula is or how to manipulate it or how to do better at it. They just plug all the numbers in, and bam, you have a VAM score, and you kind of have to live with it. So the evidence of new teacher evaluations working. The energy spent does not equal clear results. Are we getting better results? Yes. Is it worth every penny we're spending? Probably not. We're spending a lot of energy and time worried about teacher evaluations, and the growth on the student end is not equal to the energy being spent. Okay, currently I work at West Franklin High School. I'm an ESE teacher. Special ed teacher here in the state of Kansas. And I'm hired through the Three Lakes Cooperative, which is based out of Linden, Kansas. We use a modified Danielson model of evaluation that is pretty straightforward. You have your pre-evaluation packet that you need to send in 2 weeks prior to evaluation. You get to pick one observation period in the fall and one in the spring. Period of your choice, the classroom of your choice, and they will come and observe you. They'll spend 1 hour in there. And in the pre-observation packet, it's pretty straightforward. You go through the packet through all 4 domains of the Danielson model, and you mark yourself as needs improvement, effective, or highly effective. As a special education teacher, I'm required to give a lesson plan, what my goals are, what my outcomes are, things to look for. I'm to include a completed IEP packet that I've recently implemented, and then and that has to be done 2 weeks prior to the evaluation for the evaluator to go through and look at for when they come in. After they come in, they do the 1 hour sit-in with the evaluation, where they go through their checklist and make sure everything is what they're seeing. If they have questions, they ask you, and then you have your post-evaluation meeting. For us, I sit down with the head principal, and I sit down with the assistant director of special education services at Three Lakes, and we get to go through all 4 domains, and we get to talk about whether I'm effective, highly effective, needs improvement, how I scored it, how they scored it, and in the end, they kind of come up with a score, and we all sign it, and we move on. If a teacher or myself feels like I was being evaluated unfairly, or there was something that I wanted to make note of, there is a box on the evaluation system that I can write notes in. I'm not necessarily, when I sign it, I don't necessarily say that I agree with their evaluation. It's just that, yes, that was the evaluation, and yes, we went through the process, and yes, I signed it. The bad thing is if there's no type of recourse or due process in our district if you're unjustly being fired, and I'm sure that our administrators are coached or taught to the fact that when somebody is not being renewed, that's all they tell them. They don't give them a reason of any kind. But yeah, that's pretty much the straightforward process in our district. Okay, the court case that I decided to choose was the Texas State Teachers Association, the TSTA, and it was versus the Texas Education Commissioner, Mike Morath. And what the Texas Education Commissioner tried to implement in April of 2016 was he wanted to implement the Texas Teacher Evaluation Support System, and that would replace their current professional development appraisal system. And really the sticking point and the basis of the whole court case was the 20% evaluation went towards the student growth. So your students in your classroom, the growth that they achieved from day one until the end of the evaluation accounted for 20%. And that really dealt with partial of the VAM model. And in the legal aspect that they were able to file the suit on was that the Texas Education Code requires that your evaluation is based on observable job-related behavior, meaning they can come in and see you present, see you do a check for understanding, see you do cooperative learning, student groups, whatever it may be, things that you can touch and you can see and that you can see. And the VAM is not an observable substance. It's a formula with all kinds of mathematical equations in it that none of us really understand. And so that's really the basis of theirs, is that 20%, the VAM model, is not observable. Okay, and for most of us, the VAM model is extremely multifaceted and confusing, and there's probably 90+% teachers that can't tell you how it works. They plug in the equipment or the equations and it's there. Excuse me. In fact, the American Statistical Association has discredited VAM models. They're an extremely ineffective measurement, and I think any of us that are pretty straightforward people, if you give us something we understand and that we can see and we can touch and we can change, we're more than welcome to be evaluated on those things and change those things. And as of March 19th, 2018, this lawsuit was still in progress. As a future administrator, the things that I would do to make sure that I stay on the correct side of the law is, number one, stay up to date with current federal and state legislation on what is legal, what is not legal within the evaluation system, measurements and tools, and how it is to be carried out within our district. I want to make sure I follow all district board policies and procedures. That's why they are there, is to protect both sides of the equation, to protect the administrators in the schools and also protect the teachers from unjust evaluations. Make sure I follow up with any current or implement the evaluation protocol that is already in place. As I become a new administrator in a school, I don't want to walk in and reinvent the wheel. I want to use what they're using. It's been approved by the board, and it's probably been working at least to some degree for a while, so I will continue doing that. And as time changes and as legal courses change and as better tools and evaluation systems come in, I would work and to lobby to improve those within our district. Some of the other things I always want to be is I want to be very transparent and honest with all, whether it be the principals, the teachers, the superintendent, and any. I always like to keep the superintendent abreast of all issues, whether it be good, bad, indifferent, and really consult him on all issues and make sure that I get his opinion and his advice on how to handle both good and bad evaluations with teachers. So that is my video presentation. Thank you very much.